With all of this sword and shield controversy, I feel I need to address this subject myself in a way that only a potato can. There has been a lot of commentary about how the Pokemon games keep getting worse with each new iteration. Game Freak isn't listening to fans, and every time they take one step forward and two steps back. And the thing is, it's all true. So I thought I would put my 2 cents in on the matter and tell all of you, and by extension maybe Game Freak, my ideas for the perfect, ideal Pokemon game. Bear with me, this is my opinion, and you don't have to agree with me, but I feel like at least some of you will for what I have to say. First and foremost, stop making so many new Pokemon, and stop doing it so fast. Not the games, but the monsters themselves. We already have over 800 monsters to catch as is. I'm not saying just stop creating new Pokemon entirely, but if you're going to release a new game yearly, and at least every 2 years you're going to come up with another 100 or so new monsters to catch, pretty soon you'll have a legitimate excuse to not put all the Pokemon in the game because you'll have thousands. And that's just going to be ridiculous to catch all those Pokemon. And on that note, leave no Pokemon behind. The first Pokemon games were conceptualized around the idea of insect collecting in Japan. And eventually it became about, bonding with the monsters you caught. So you collect, train, and battle with these monsters. And the series catchphrase was, gotta catch them all. It's kind of hard to do that when you leave some out to dry. Admittedly, this is not the first time Game Freak has left previous generations out to dry. With the move from Game Boy to Game Boy Advance, the old monsters from the old games couldn't be transferred into the new games Ruby and Sapphire, at first anyways. Then came Fire Red and Leaf Green. This is a remake of the Generation 1 games, Red and Blue, except, Japan got green instead of blue, so they decided to give us Leaf Green the second go around. That put the original Pokemon back in play. It didn't put the Generation 2 Pokemon back yet. However, the GameCube had some games called Pokemon Coliseum and XD Gale of Darkness that brought in some of the Generation 2 Pokemon. That being said, to acquire almost all of the Pokemon that were available up to that point, you had to have at least 2 different consoles, one being the Game Boy Advance, one being the GameCube, a link cable to connect them, 3 to 4 different games, and you still didn't get them all. Then comes Generation 4 on the Nintendo DS, which did introduce new Pokemon, but with the addition of the Game Boy Advance slot here, you could put the old Pokemon from the Game Boy Advance games into the new Pokemon games via a transfer method at the end of the regular game. The Generation 2 games on the Game Boy, Gold and Silver, were remade into Heart Gold and Soul Silver for the DS, and they also allowed you to transfer Pokemon from the Game Boy Advance. This meant that you could finally fill your national dex for the first time in 2 generations. Like Generation 1 and Generation 2 games on the Game Boy, Generation 5 on the DS would allow you to transfer Pokemon from the previous generation. I have said generation way too many times, but you get the idea. Black, Black 2, White, and White 2 would allow you to trade up from Heart Gold, Soul Silver, Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum. Then comes the 3DS, and once again, we are locked out of the previous generations for a time. However, with the 3DS comes the Pokemon Bank, so you could transfer all the Pokemon from previous generations up to the current games, which were X and Y. And the same can be said for Sun and Moon, and Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, which are also on the 3DS. And guess what? They have over 800 Pokemon on these games at once. In fact, the original games from the Game Boy, Red, Blue, Yellow, Gold, and Silver, are available on the 3DS eShop and can transfer the Pokemon from those games to the bank, therefore trading them up to Sun, Moon, Ultra Sun, and Ultra Moon, as well as X and Y. So up to this point, even with some hiccups here and there, every Pokemon available to date could be transferred in some way or another to the latest games. And that means they could be seen in full animated 3D, which is something we would expect from the next handheld console, the Nintendo Switch. The first Pokemon games introduced on the Nintendo Switch are Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee, remakes of the original games. With a twist, they're actually remakes of Yellow version which, you know, is the one where Pikachu followed you around. Except you also get the option of having Eevee do the same thing. He rides on your head. It's cute. Which, you know, these games are fine. It's nice to see Kanto in 3D, and it's absolutely wonderful to see the Pokemon roam around on the overworld instead of just hiding in the grass and they wait to surprise you. This is also another feature that needs to remain. I have seen from the footage we've seen so far of Sword and Shield that there are Pokemon in the overworld, at least for some of it. But again, there are some random encounters in the grass. So, is it just sometimes that we get to see Pokemon in the overworld and only in certain areas? Is it going to be back to basics when we go back into regular areas that aren't the big overworld zone that they talked about? But back to Let's Go for a second. The problem with those games is they only allow you, with 2 exceptions, to catch the first 151 Pokemon, with one of those Pokemon being locked behind a $40 to $50 paywall. Mine's dead. Now the games do link up with Pokemon Go, the mobile game. However, you can only transfer the Pokemon from the original game, not Generation 2 onward. So that means when you go to transfer them over, some won't be allowed. Except for 2 Pokemon that are supposedly introduced in Sword and Shield, Meltan and Melmetal. But those 2 don't count against your national dex, so what does it matter? Keeping in mind, Pokemon Go is up to Generation 4. That means you can catch Pokemon that appear in Diamond and Pearl. Now, from the latest E3, we are to believe that Pokemon Sword and Shield will have all new Pokemon, a whole new region to explore, new features such as Dynamax, which makes your Pokemon become giant, and will be the return to the core series, because apparently Let's Go is just a side thing. However, the thing that really gets to me is after the Pokemon Direct, the Treehouse event, where they casually and meekly just, you know, quietly announce that, oh yeah, the national dex won't be included, some of your Pokemon will not be able to be transferred up to these games. Sorry. You know, they didn't say anything more about that. They just said it all casually like it was no big deal. That means you can't get whatever these Pokemon that are being blacklisted are by means of transfer or anything. Just know, it's too much work, we can't fit all the models into the game. Can't fit all their lies? So you mean to tell me that the 3DS, a severely inferior piece of hardware, can hold all of these Pokemon and their animations, and they're so good that they are used in both Pokemon Go and Pokemon Let's Go, yet the Switch can't handle it? I don't believe that for a second. In Pokemon Let's Go, you can't tell that the monsters came from the 3DS. They look fine. That's all we ask for. I mean, the graphics in Pokemon Sword and Shield aren't that intense. The style hasn't been changed. It still holds a cartoony look to it. Everything is pretty simple. Sure, the game may be bigger, but it's not so big that it can't hold all those Pokemon, especially if the 3DS can. The 3DS has a full-fledged campaign in each of its games, and yet 800 Pokemon are there, not including the Pokemon for the workload, or the space on the cartridge, or the space in the game, or even the other reason that they gave, balancing issues, is just crap. It's full of crap. Their excuse is some of the less popular Pokemon will get a chance to shine, and this will improve balancing in the online battles. But at the same time, don't worry, all your favorites will be there. So what you're telling me is you are excluding popular Pokemon for the less popular Pokemon, but all the popular ones are still there, so they'll still use the same ones in online battles and nothing will change. Good job, Game Freak. Leave no Pokemon behind. Woo boy, I spent a lot of time on that rant, and I still have other things to talk about. Next up, do what you did with Gold and Silver, but more. You know, the best thing you could do would be to give us several regions in one game. It would be so awesome to collect those 8 badges, fight the Elite Four, go back home, and travel to a new region and do it all over again. Make it like the journey of Ash. If Ash Ketchum can spend 20 years going from region to region, getting 8 badges, fighting the Elite Four, moving on, getting 8 more badges, fighting the Elite Four, a whole new team of Pokemon, Why can't we? And if you're saying, well, the bad guys won't wait around, well, they did in the Pokemon anime. And for that matter, the story wouldn't have to be heavily adjusted from what it is in the anime. I mean, if the bad guy organization of the Sinnoh region can wait around for so many years for Ash to get there, stumble about for however many years, get a couple of badges, and then find them, then so can we in the game. What's any different? Nobody is expecting groundbreaking storytelling. We just want more game. My biggest pet peeve about Pokemon games, as is I will play them, and I will play them hard. And then 15 to 20 hours later, I'm done. For example, Let's Go. The only thing I have left to do in Let's Go is Shiny Hunt. And that is monotonous and boring, because the campaign was so short and I was so familiar with it after 3 different versions of Kanto. I finished the game completely. I have my certificate that says I have caught all the Pokemon. So now I have nothing to do but catch shinies if I want to. So that's not a reason for me to pick back up the game. Honestly, I haven't actually touched it in months. I have completed the National Dex on a couple of different games, and that does include some of the 3DS ones. So when I get my hands on a new Pokemon game, I go all out. I give it my all. But I still don't get more than 20 to 30 hours out of it, max. How great would it be to be like Gold and Silver, where you get your first 8 badges, and you keep going, but then you do it again. You can even do it as DLC. Make it the Final Fantasy VII remake of Pokemon. You know, every couple of months release a new region. Or, you know, every 6 months. I know it takes a while to develop some of these things, and you could even do it in Let's Go style. It wouldn't be that big a deal. I'm sure people would play it. My biggest gripe with games like Let's Go, other than it being short, is your dependency on waggle tech. Allow us to play the game how we choose. For those of us who record and stream gameplay, that means we have to use the waggle tech. We have to swing our arms at our monitors. Just let us plug in a controller. You let us do it in handheld. It's not that hard. Now, that being said, the catch mechanic is not terrible. I just would prefer it to be optional. If we want to play like that, that's fine. If younger people want to play like that, that's great. I do like the dual catching method, when 2 people use Joy-Cons to catch at the same time. Or if you're alone, you could do that yourself to have better bonuses with your catch rate. But I want it to be optional. I don't want to be playing it on my TV and still have to do that all the time. I'd like it in handheld mode where I could just play it like the game is intended. Speaking of features, let's talk about this one and done mentality that Game Freak seems to have. Contests, the Battle Frontier, Day and Night Cycle, Z-Moves, now Mega Evolutions, now even Pokemon are becoming a feature that they can just throw away. The bicycle even disappeared for a while. I mean, sometimes, and they admit to this, they just throw away features whether or not they're well received. They just do it to surprise the player. Alright, let's review. What would be the ideal Pokemon game? A big game. A big game with lots of regions to explore. New areas, new badges, new Pokemon. All the Pokemon. Don't leave any Pokemon behind. Let them roam around the overworld. That gives the game a feeling of being alive. If you're worried about the workload, continue to just upscale the previous models like you have done so far. Give us contests, give us Battle Frontier, give us something to do. Don't leave us at the end of the game just with a monotonous grind. Give us more game. If you have to release it through patches and DLC, that's fine. I'm willing to pay for that. I just want more game. I hate the fact that I love Pokemon so much that I've played them since the Game Boy games. Yet when I'm done, and probably never touch them again, unless I do the dreaded start from scratch. Or maybe some shiny hunting from time to time. But really, that's not playing the game. That's just waiting. All you do is wait. It's boring. I want more core game. You could even patch it on to Let's Go if you wanted to. We started with Kanto, give us Johto, then Hoenn, Sinnoh, and so on. You could go from Kanto to Alola to get us caught up to what's coming out next. Most importantly, let us keep all of our Pokemon. We've worked so hard and trained them for so many years. I've raised Pokemon from Game Boy Advance to 3DS. I don't want to lose them. I mean, up to this point, you've let us catch them all. You put them all in the 3DS. Again, as I've said many, many times in this video, is way less powerful than the Switch. If 3DS can do it and put a full game behind it, so can the Switch. If you have to patch it in, it still can work. Give us back the features that we love. Stop taking them away each game just to surprise us. At the end of the day, isn't that the goal anyway? Sell us the game, keep us playing. Listen to your fans. Thank you so much for watching. I have been a potato, and hey look, I have a face. Pokemon is a series I have loved since the days of the Game Boy, and I would hate to see it fall to the wayside. I know I've talked about how once I finish the game, I just put it down and never touch it again, but that doesn't mean I don't love the series. I want to see it do well. I want to see it succeed. I want to see it grow in popularity and not lose its clout. I want to have more reasons to pick up the game after I've completed it than shiny hunting. Or I want to have more reasons to continue playing because I haven't completed it yet because there's just so much game there to play. And just catching the Pokemon does not fill that void. Can't just trick me with numbers. I need actual game there. The Switch has breathed new life into old series such as Mario with Mario Odyssey and Zelda with Breath of the Wild by shaking up their respective franchises, giving us something new after many years of the same thing over and over again. However, it doesn't look like Pokemon's going to do that. In fact, the way they're shaking things up is they're taking things away. That's not how you do things. There's no reason to give us a system that is capable of so much more and giving us such a limited game. Don't get me wrong, I still look forward to Sword and Shield. I will play them because I am a sucker and I love Pokemon. But that doesn't mean that I'm happy with the choices that are being made. Game Freak, for the first time ever, responded to fans because of the hashtag Bring Back National Dex. But they responded with a, oh well. That's not the right way to be. That's not how to keep fans. That's how to lose them. If you don't care about your customers, then you're not going to have customers. A game that developers put their heart and soul into sells well because it shows. You can't just poop out a game each year and call it good. I know it seems like Game Freak doesn't feel as though they're as important as they used to be, seeing as they're developing games like Town and making that more of a priority than Pokemon. I don't mind that they're making another game. I'm just upset that they're not focusing on their flagship. It seems like they're trying to get away from it, and that's not good. That means eventually they're going to succeed, and the games we receive as a result are going to suck. But rant over. Thank you so much for watching. I have been a potato. If you like this video, please leave a like and a comment below. If you're new here or for some reason just missed that button, please hit subscribe. I try to release a video every Friday and I appreciate every single one of you. Thank you all so much for the nice comments and coming back time and time again. And remember, this Spud's for you.